All right, what is going on, fight fans? Good morning to you. Might as well say morning because on the East Coast it is 2 in the morning. Listen, man, boxing needs to get it together with that. I know that a lot of these fights take place on the West Coast, particularly these big events out in Vegas. But man, we need to get it together and get these fights on just a little bit earlier at least. But let's get right into this one. It was the great Terrence Crawford taking down the great Canelo Alvarez. I'm going to start out by saying that I did get this fight wrong. I picked Alvarez by split decision. What I was thinking was this. I was wondering if the guy who fought William Skull earlier this year was going to be the guy who showed up tonight against Crawford, and that's exactly who it was. I did not think that that was going to be the case. I thought that Canelo would turn the clock back. I thought that because he was in such great condition, I thought that he would take this fight very personal. The fact that the really recent welterweight champion of the world is talking about coming up 3 weight classes to challenge him for his super middleweight title. Yes, I know Crawford fought 1 fight at junior middle, but really he's, so I guess technically he's coming up 2 weight classes. But even if you want to go with that, it still was amazing what Crawford was wanting to do. I really thought the fight would go the way it went, but I thought it would be more Alvarez, and I thought that he would win by a split decision. I didn't think that anyone would get knocked out in this fight, and to be honest, I really didn't think anyone would get knocked down. Let's start with my pros and cons. The pros for Alvarez is that he decided to take the challenge of one of the best fighters in the world right now and over the past few years, knowing that he had more to lose than to gain. I thought that left he was throwing to the body would help him out in the fight. I thought it would help slow Crawford down. I did like the way that Alvarez was still cutting the ring off, trying not to let Crawford get into his rhythm. And he finally, it was like the last 3 rounds, started throwing the uppercut. But that brings me to the cons. He did not try to throw enough uppercuts earlier in the fight when he did get Crawford to the ropes, which wasn't that often. And I didn't like the fact that he wasn't as busy. He was throwing more than 1 shot at a time, but it was 2 shots. They were slow, and he was not really throwing when Crawford was throwing, which is what he probably needed to do to win this fight. As for Terrence Crawford, the pros would be, I did like the jab. I like the fact that he was moving, even though he was being cut off. I thought he did a good job of keeping his gloves up, blocking on defense. I like the looping left hand that he was throwing, and he did catch Alvarez a few times on that right side. Now, Alvarez did roll some of those, but I like what Crawford had going on there. I like the fact that really neither fighter did a lot of holding. Crawford did not do a lot of holding, and I like the fact that Crawford kept the fight in the middle of the ring. As for the cons, I got to be honest, nothing. No cons for Terrence Crawford. I thought he fought a great fight. I thought he fought a smart fight, and that's why he came here with the victory. The first 2 rounds, let's talk about the fight a little bit. Those first 2 rounds were, as expected, more fill-out rounds. But by the 3rd round, Crawford started to get his rhythm. He started to pop the jab. He started to, adjust to Alvarez's speed, which his speed is not what it used to be, but he still started to adjust to what Alvarez was doing. And pretty much Crawford controlled the fight pretty much that way on out. I really had it 8-4. It wasn't until the 6th round that Alvarez started to pick it up a little bit, but he really didn't pick it up until Crawford really brought the fight to him. That was it was the 6th round. That round was a little more action packed. Again, in the 9th round, Crawford came out and he started, welling away shots. Not really going for the knockout, but I think he wanted to get the crowd into the fight a little bit more and to show Alvarez that he was there to fight and not just move around. We get to the end, and it was not a split decision, but it was Crawford by unanimous decision. And, it did make me feel away when I saw Crawford go down on the knee and, he began to cry. He began to feel his emotions because this was a big fight for him. This was a career-defining fight, a resume-selling fight. So now let's talk about what happens from here. Let's start with Saul Alvarez. What I think happens from here is this. I think that he needs to take a mid-level opponent in Mexico and retire. He's been a pro since he was 15. He's now 35. He said he wanted to retire at 37, but I don't see 3 or 4 more fights in him, unless he's fighting really lower competition. I think the guy we saw tonight is the guy that we will see for the rest of his career. Hey, listen, it's been a great career. He's got nothing to hang his hat on. He didn't duck anyone. I just think that his best days are past him. As for Bud Crawford, he has a couple of options. Of course, one being retirement. Two being he goes back down to junior middle and he fights Boots Ennis. Maybe he fights one of the Charlos at junior middle or middleweight. I forget which one is at middleweight now. At super middleweight, I don't really know what's there. I'm talking like a big fight for him. Maybe he dares to be great and he goes up to light heavyweight and he fights either Bivol or Beterbiev. And maybe, just maybe, he does something crazy like go up to cruiserweight and fight, Ope or somebody like that. I'm not really sure what's left for Terrence Crawford, or he can just retire and go down as one of the greatest to ever do it. Not only, in my opinion, one of the greatest in this generation, but one of the greatest, arguably top 25 to ever do it. All right, fight fans, what did you think about the fight? Who did you have winning the fight? Were you entertained by the fight? Did you enjoy the fight? And what do you want to see Alvarez and Crawford do for here? Now, I can tell you this. One thing I don't want to see is a rematch. It will be the exact same fight over again if they did it. All right. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can keep talking boxing. That's all I got for this one. Holla at y'all later.